Ninth day of session, February the 24th, 2025. Make your way into the chamber, and Chief Clerk, if you would please call the roll.
Convening roll call for the 29th day of session, February 24th, 2025. Alamand? Andrew? Angelos? Banks? Bear? Brady? Bratton? Brown, Gary? Brown, Landon? Byron? Campbell, Elisa? Campbell, Kevin? Chestick? Clouston? Connolly? Davis? Eklund? Erickson? Fiedler? Geringer? Guggenmoss? Haraldson? Harshman? Heiner? Heft? Jarvis? Johnson? Kelly? Knapp? Larson Lloyd? Larson JT? Lawley? Lean? Locke? Lucas? McCann? Nicholas? Ottman? Pendergraft? Posey? Provenza? Reagans? Excused. Rodriguez Williams? Schmid? Sherwood? Singh? Smith? Storr? Strzok? Stivar? Tarver? Thayer? Washut? Wasserberger? Webb? Weber? Worf? Williams? Winter? Wiley? Yin? Mr. Speaker? 60 present, 2 excused.
Thank you, Chief Clerk. Our prayer of the day will be led by our good Representative Angelos. So if you all please rise, she will lead us in prayer.
All right, well, I'm going to start with scripture first before we begin. Isaiah 40:31, but those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary, and they will walk and not be faint. And I feel like that is fitting for this week. So, Father God, we thank you for this day. We thank you for each representative here who is representing their districts back home. And God, we pray that this week we put you first, that we will not grow weary, we will not grow faint, we will do what's right for the state of Wyoming, that we'll hear your voice, that you will bring us together to direct this state for future generations. And we thank you and praise you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Representative Angelos. Fellow members and guests, please join me in the salute to our flag. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and find our seats. We've got a special event that we're gonna have here momentarily. Oh, okay. It is very good to see you guys feeling better. It smells a little bit like hand sanitizer in here, but not quite at the level it did here a week ago, so that's a good indication. So, all right, let's go ahead and get this thing on the roll. Journal Committee report.
Your Journal Committee reports that the Journal of February 21st, 2025 has been read and recommends that it be approved. Representatives Jarvis and Posey.
Thank you, Reading Clerk. Representative Larson, JT, you have something for us, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Privilege of the floor.
Please.
Members, up in our north gallery, we have members of Wyoming that are Wyoming principals across the state, from Wyoming Association of Elementary and Middle School Principals and Wyoming Association of Secondary School Principals. Their organizations include principals, like I said, from all districts around the state, and their interests are doing whatever is best for our students in Wyoming. And we'd just like to welcome them all to the House and thank them for being here.
Thank you for being here and welcome to the House. Appreciate what you do. And so, yes, Representative Ottman, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Also, I guess in the North Gallery, right?
Yes, that is north, Representative Ottman.
I have two good friends. One is a friend from Fremont County, well, they're both from Fremont County, Tina Clifford. And the other one we all know and love, Representative Sarah Penn.
I'll have to say, Representative Penn, it was almost deja vu all over again when I stepped out of my office and you were sitting over there along where you normally would sit last year. So it's good to have you both here in the House, and welcome. Glad to have you. Representative Filer, go ahead, and then we'll move on to our special event.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Quick privilege?
Please.
All right, folks. Hey, you can't boo yet. This is why. So there must be a following every morning, and one of our representatives' grandchild sent me a joke. So if we boo, that's probably a bad thing. So with that, Mr. Speaker, where do pirates get their hooks? The secondhand store. Thanks, Mr. Speaker.
So if you know where those kind of jokes come from now, I would consult that representative's grandson next time again. So that's very, very cute. Good for that. Representative Alleman, privilege?
Privilege of the floor, sir.
Please.
I shouldn't be here because I cannot get through this. Today is Breast Cancer Awareness Day. in 1976, my mom and dad went on probably their first vacation that they ever went on. They went to Alaska. My mother bought my dad this bolo tie. When they got home, she was diagnosed with breast cancer. She fought it for 25 years. She kicked the crap out of breast cancer, but it finally took its toll. My mom and dad my dad would not leave her side. They were in the best hospitals in Denver that they could find. They were there for months and months. I almost did not graduate from high school because I was home taking care of the ranch, and my attendance was at a position it would not allow me to graduate. My mother died quite a few years ago, but she kicked the crap out of breast cancer. And I searched this whole town this weekend looking for pink pants and a pink overcoat. Cheyenne does not have much in stock in pink. I did find this shirt. It's Walmart, but I love Walmart because it's the only place I could find this pink shirt. I am getting along with this better than I thought of, but this bolo tie means a lot to me. And this pink shirt, it's Walmart, but it means quite a little to me also because it's pink. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Alleman. Appreciate you doing that. Okay, our doctor of the day is Brendan Fitzsimmons, MD out of Family Medicine in Kemmerer, Wyoming. So he will be with us looking after us today. And next, ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to present our next speakers. Members of the House, today we welcome representatives of the Wyoming Breast Cancer Initiative, who will provide an update on their efforts to raise awareness and expand breast cancer prevention across Wyoming. Please help me welcome their team. Laurel Bellotti, Karen Rossetti, Stacy Buckholtz. Ladies, welcome to the House. Thank you.
Good morning, members of the House. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you about the Wyoming Breast Cancer Initiative. I'd like to recognize all cancer survivors, their families, and friends who are here today to celebrate Pink Day at the legislature. My name is Laurel Bellotti. I'm a wife, mother, executive, and community volunteer. I am a member of the Wyoming Breast Cancer Initiative Board of Directors and a breast cancer survivor. It is my true honor to represent the WBCI today. I was diagnosed with breast cancer in January of 2021, and today is the 4-year anniversary of my double mastectomy, which rid the cancer from my body. I told myself I wasn't going to cry. I'm so sorry. Early detection saved my life. The type of breast cancer I had was extremely aggressive, ultimately requiring 18 months of treatments infused through a port in my chest. At the time of diagnosis, I was considered young for breast cancer. I had my first mammogram nearly 10 years before the typical recommendations of the American Cancer Society, and there is no breast cancer in my family. Being diagnosed with breast cancer will never really make sense, but I believe I was chosen so I could be an advocate for others, especially in the underserved communities across our state. The Wyoming Breast Cancer Initiative was founded in January 2016 with a mission to increase breast cancer awareness and prevention across Wyoming. As a Wyoming-based organization, we are dedicated to ensuring all funds raised stay within the state to support our communities. Through statewide events, generous donors, and strong partnerships, we provide grants to community-based breast cancer programs. We also collaborate with the Wyoming Cancer Program, part of the Wyoming Department of Health, to ensure that all Wyoming residents, regardless of age, income, gender, or insurance status, have access to essential tests related to breast cancer diagnosis. The WBCI steps in where federal funding falls short, making a real difference for those in need. Money raised in Wyoming stays in Wyoming. Since our inception, the Wyoming Breast Cancer Initiative has granted over $1 million to support breast cancer screening, prevention, patient navigation, and survivor support programs across Wyoming. Our funds have assisted 5,850 patients with navigation services, provided 2,051 patients with breast boutique services, supported 1,781 patients with counseling sessions, funded 1,582 screening mammograms and diagnostic tests, and enabled over 6,000 clinical breast exams. We are committed to reducing barriers to care and ensuring Wyoming residents have the resources they need. On behalf of our board, staff, volunteers, survivors, warriors, and their families, we thank you for recognizing our work today. We remain committed to raising awareness for early detection, providing navigation services for those in treatment, and supporting our survivors. For more information, please visit us online at wyomingbreastcancer.org. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you, ladies, for joining us today and updating us on all of your work, and we appreciate it. And we know, based on so many people's testimony about the effects of cancer, and specifically breast cancer, and are needing to continue to develop technologies and resources to be able to battle this, and especially the impacts that it has. And a lot of times, ladies and gentlemen, as I listen to Representative Alleman's story, you don't fully realize when you drop a rock in the water at how the ripples move out from there, and the effect that it has on so many people far beyond just that person that is dealing with that issue, and that the families and even the schools and everyone else in their lives are greatly affected by this. So thank you, ladies, for all of your efforts. It's much appreciated, and we're so blessed to have you here. And thank you for your lives and the preservation of them and the work that you're going to do in the future to come for all the other ladies that are going to be needing your help, and so on what you're doing right now. So thank you. Appreciate you being with us and sharing this morning. Representative Larson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Privilege of the floor, if I may.
Please.
So, members of the House, so I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, as are a number of my fellow legislators here in this body from around the state. And frankly, Mr. Speaker, I think they live their lives much better than I do. In representing the standards of the church.
a little emotional because last week we all received this letter. Very hateful. Somehow implying that evil is somehow inherent to one's race. This person notes a membership in the fundamentalist sect of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I, along with my colleagues who are members of the church, would testify to you that we're all sons and daughters of a loving Heavenly Father who loves us equally, not because of one race over another. We do not believe goodness is a product of race or skin color. That letter so infuriated me. I would not normally stand up and opine on a church matter, but it concerns me, and I believe it also as well concerns my fellow legislators who are members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, that this hateful letter might mistakenly be construed to represent our beliefs and the beliefs of our church, which it does not. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Representative Larson. I think it is in all of our best interests to battle bigotry and hatred in any form. And that is why I felt it was good for him to have that opportunity to be able to stand up and tell the truth about what they believe and their precepts. And that is why I think it's all of our responsibility to stand on what God actually said. And he said, you know, if he so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever should believe. You know, ladies and gentlemen, this room is full of whosoevers. That doesn't have anything to do with your skin color or anything, as long as you're a whosoever. So, thank you, Representative Larson. Okay. Now we shall move on. Next order of business, messages from the Senate.
Message 344. Mr. Speaker, the Senate adopted the Committee of the Whole report failing the bill listed below by the vote indicated. House Bill 221, Bighorn and Domestic Sheep Relocation, effective date repeal. Ayes 11, noes 19, excused 1. The bill has been indefinitely postponed. Message 345. Mr. Speaker, the Senate adopted the Committee of the Whole report, failing the bill listed below by the vote indicated. House Bill 189, Harmful Communication, Minors. Ayes 4, noes 26, excused 1. The bill has been indefinitely postponed. Sincerely, Ellen Thompson, Senate Chief Clerk.
Thank you, Reading Clerk. Okay, now we have some enrolled acts that we need to take care of, and some concurrences, and some conference committees reports here. First, we will do our enrolled acts. We are at that order of business of signing of enrolled acts. The first enrolled act for our consideration is House Enrolled Act number 24.
House Enrolled Act 24, being original House Bill 172, an act relating to concealed weapons, repealing gun-free zones, providing for and the carrying of concealed weapons as specified, creating a criminal offense for prohibiting entry into a person carrying a concealed weapon as specified, clarifying that only the state legislature may regulate firearms, weapons, and ammunition, providing for exceptions, requiring rulemaking, and providing for an effective date, being enacted by the legislature of the state of Wyoming.
I'm about to sign Enrolled Act number 24, having been original House Bill number 172. I have so signed. Congratulations, Representative Harrelson. Next enrolled act for our consideration, Enrolled Act number 25.
House Enrolled Act 25, being original House Bill 264, an act relating to the administration of the government, prohibiting state agencies from requiring a central bank digital currency as payment, prohibiting state agencies from spending public funds as specified, and providing for an effective date, being enacted by the legislature of the state of Wyoming.
I'm about to sign Enrolled Act number 25, being original House Bill number 264. I have so signed. Congratulations, Representative Singh. Next, we have Senate enrolled acts. First enrolled act for our consideration, number 21.
Senate Enrolled Act 21, being original Senate File 168, an act relating to public funds, repealing the budget reserve account, providing for the transfer from the revision of funds from the budget reserve account, making conforming amendments, repealing obsolete language, requiring reports, and providing for an effective date, being enacted by the legislature of the state of Wyoming.
I'm about to sign Senate Enrolled Act number 21, having been original Senate file number 168. I have so signed. Next, Senate Enrolled Act 22.
Senate Enrolled Act 22, being original Senate File 64, an act relating to agriculture, livestock, and other animals, providing policies on identification of livestock for disease traceability, specifying the buyers of livestock in receiving states are responsible for the usage of electronic ear tags, requiring the Wyoming Livestock Board to inform livestock producers of their livestock identification options, providing legislative findings, and providing for an effective date, being enacted by the legislature of the state of Wyoming.
I'm about to sign Enrolled Act number 22, having been originally Senate file number 64. I have so signed. All right, that completes our enrolled acts. Next, we move on to our concurrence requests. We have one request to concur, Representative Williams, Rodriguez Williams. Message number 337.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move message number 337, which was original House Bill 42, and ask for your aye vote. And I would be happy to explain what the Senate did.
Go ahead, you can, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So this is a friendly amendment to the bill, supported by the bill sponsor, actually prompted by the bill sponsor, which essentially it just basically conforms, it changes the definitions on page 3, lines 1 through 7, and on page 5, lines 2, after the word woman, deletes and inserts a period. So some technical corrections and then just a definition correction. So I would ask for your aye vote in concurrence.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is regarding Senate message number 337 regarding House Bill number 42. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, we are voting on a motion to concur with Senate amendments to House Bill 42. A majority of the elected members is required. The chief clerk will call the roll.
Allemand? Yes. Aye. Andrew? Aye. Angelos? Aye. Banks? Aye. Bear? Aye. Brady? Aye. Bratton? Aye. Brown, Gary? Aye. Brown, Landon? Aye. Byron? Aye. Campbell, Elisa? Aye. Campbell, Kevin? Chestick? No. Clauston. Connolly. Davis. Eklund. Erickson. Feiler. Geringer. Guggenmoss. Haroldson. Harshman. Heiner. Heft. Jarvis. Johnson. Kelly. Knapp. Larson Lloyd. Larson JT. Lawley. Lean. Locke. Lucas. McCann. Nicholas. Ottman. Pendergraft. Posey. Provenza. Riggins, excused. Rodriguez Williams. Schmid. Sherwood. Singh. Smith. Storer. Strock. Stivar. Tarver. Thayer. Washut. Wasserberger. Webb. Weber. Wharf. Williams. Winter. Wiley. Yin. Mr. Speaker, are there any changes? Are there any changes? Closing vote. Vote closed. 55 aye, 6 no, 1 excused.
By your vote, you have voted to concur with Senate amendments to House Bill 42. Okay, that completes that. Next, Representative Andrew, we have a Joint Conference Committee report, message number 331. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move message number 331 to Senate File 77 and ask for your favorable consideration. Members, what we did in the conference committee is we went along with the wishes of the sponsor of the bill, who, when it went to standing committee in the House, we went back and deleted all the changes the Senate had made to the original bill. It was the will of the sponsor that we keep the Senate engrossed version, and we agreed with that. So I think essentially what that did was remove the immunity part of this bill. Thank you.
Is there any discussion? Representative Provenza.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sorry, I'm a little slow on the uptick. Can we, it was House Bill or Senate File 77, and it's not on our list for the day, so I just need some help.
Senate File 77 is the one
Okay.
this is. This is a Joint Conference Committee report.
Okay.
Oh. Yes, ma'am, please. Provenza.
So, Mr. Speaker, then I assume then you have to go to Senate File 77 on the legislative website. And when you're on there, there will be on the right different PDFs you can click on. I believe the concurrence message will be there. So if you're looking in your daily agenda that we have, you're not going to find it at the bottom like we did the last motion, but you will find it if you go to Senate File 77. So just maybe a moment for us to find that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You bet. Take your time. Look it over. Make sure everybody's on the page.
Yeah.
It's in the amendments on Senate File 77. Take a moment here while folks can look that over and make sure that everything's all good, or not. Representative Chestick. First time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was on the conference committee for this bill, and we were unanimous in agreeing with the original sponsor of the bill on the Senate side. So what happened was when the bill came over when it was first introduced It had some language about creating a new exception to governmental immunity that was taken out by amendment in the Senate version. We put it back in the House Judiciary Committee, and then the Senate did not concur with that. So we had a conference, and during the testimony in our Judiciary Committee, the sponsor of the bill was actually argued for us to go back to the original version passed by the Senate. And we took a look at it and agreed that the exception to immunity that was being added was not necessary. So we acceded to the wishes of the original sponsor of the bill and agreed to go back to the original Senate version of the bill. Therefore, I would ask for an aye vote on concurrence on message 313.
Thank you, Representative Chestick. Any other discussion? Any other members' discussion? Seeing none. Okay, we are voting on Joint Conference Committee number 331, report to Senate File 77. A majority of the elected members is required to adopt the report. Chief Clerk, please call the roll.
Ellamand. Andrew. Angelos. Banks. Bear. Brady. Bratton. Brown Gary. Brown Landon. Byron. Campbell Elisa. Campbell Kevin. Chestick. Clauston. Connolly. Davis. Eklund. Erickson. Feiler. Geringer. Guggenmoss. Haroldson. Harshman. Heiner. Heft. Jarvis. Johnson. Kelly. Knapp. Larson Lloyd. Larson JT. Lawley. Lean. Locke. Lucas. McCann. Nicholas. Ottman. Pendergraft. Posey. Provenza. Reagan's excused. Rodriguez Williams. Schmid. Sherwood. Singh. Smith. Storer. Strzok. Stivar. Tarver. Thayer. Washut. Wasserberger. Webb. Weber. Worf. Williams. Winter. Wiley. Yin. Mr. Speaker, are there any changes? Are there any changes? Closing vote. Vote closed. 54 aye, 6 no, 2 excused.
By your vote, you have adopted Joint Conference Committee number 331 report to Senate File 77.
Mr. Speaker.
Representative Yin, please.
Mr. Speaker, brief privilege of the floor.
By all means, proceed.
So, Mr. Speaker, thank you. So today's ceremony reminded me that some of us in this body has served with a breast cancer survivor. That would be former Representative Pelkey, who formerly served as the minority whip in House District 45. He is a male breast cancer survivor, and so I think it's just important as we be aware of breast cancer that it can come in all shapes and forms to all shapes and sizes of people. And I just wanted to recognize him as a survivor, and I love it when he shows up. And so please remember him.
Thank you, Representative Yin. Okay, members, we are at that order of business of Senate files on first reading. The first Senate file for our consideration is Senate File number 116.
Senate File 116, sponsored by Senator Nethercott.
First reading of the bill.
Anti-money laundering, an act relating to crimes and offenses.
Senate File 116 will be assigned to our committee number 1, Judiciary. Next Senate file for our Consideration is Senate File 148.
Senate File 148, sponsored by Senator Crago.
First reading of the bill.
Fire suppression and restoration funding.
Senate File 148 will be assigned to our Committee Number 2, Appropriations. That concludes introductions for today. Moving on, reports from standing committees.
Senate File 10, sponsored by Judiciary, settlement agreements for minors, parental authorization, and act relating to children. Mr. Speaker, your Committee Number 1 Judiciary, to whom is referred Senate File 10, settlement agreements for minors, parental authorization. Respect the report, same back to the House with the recommendation that do pass. Ayes, Representatives Brady, Bratton, Chestick, Filer, Kelly, Lean, Singh, Washit, Webb. Representative Washit, Chairman. Senate File 50, sponsored by corporations. Insurance Holding Company Regulations Amendments, an act relating to the Insurance Holding Company System Regulatory Act. Mr. Speaker, your Committee Number 7, Corporations, Elections, and Political Subdivisions, to whom is referred Senate File 50 engrossed. Insurance Holding Companies Regulations Amendments. Respect the report, same back to the House with the recommendation that do pass. Ayes, Representatives Brown, Heft, Johnson, Locke, Lucas, Webb, Weber, Yin. Conflict, Representative Knapp. Representative Yin, Vice Chairman. Senate File 51, sponsored by corporations. Wyoming Telecommunications Act revisions, an act relating to the Wyoming Telecommunications Act. Mr. Speaker, your Committee Number 7, Corporations, Elections, and Political Subdivisions, to whom is referred Senate File 51 engrossed, Wyoming Telecommunications Act revisions. Respect the report, same back to the House with the recommendation that do pass with the following amendments. Ayes, Representatives Brown, Heft, Johnson, Knapp, Locke, Lucas, Webb, Weber, Yin. Representative Yin, Vice Chairman. Senate File 52, sponsored by corporations. Insurance amendments, an act relating to the Insurance Code. Mr. Speaker, your Committee Number 7, Corporations, Elections, and Political Subdivisions, to whom is referred Senate File 52, Insurance amendments. Respect the report, same back to the House with the recommendation that do pass. Ayes, Representatives Brown, Heft, Johnson, Locke, Lucas, Webb, Weber, Yin. Conflict, Representative Knapp. Representative Yin, Vice Chairman. Senate File 115, sponsored by Senator Nethercott. Judicial Review of Agency Actions, Limitations, an act relating to the administrative procedure. Mr. Speaker, your Committee Number 1 Judiciary, to whom is referred Senate File 115, Judicial Review of Agency Actions, Limitations. Respect the report, same back to the House with the recommendation that do pass. Ayes, Representatives Chestick, Filer, Kelly, Singh, Washit. Noes, Representatives Brady, Bratton, Lean, Webb. Representative Washit, Chairman. Senate File 160, sponsored by Senator Olson. Treatment Courts, Amendments 2, an act relating to courts. Mr. Speaker, your Committee Number 1 Judiciary, to whom is referred Senate File 160, Treatment Courts, Amendments 2. Respect the report, same back to the House with the recommendation that do pass. Ayes, Representatives Chestick, Filer, Kelly, Singh, Washit. Noes, Representatives Brady, Bratton, Lean, Webb. Representative Washit, Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Reading Clerk. Next, we've got some re-referrals here. Majority Floor Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to re-refer Senate File, I make a motion to re-refer Senate File 17, Carbon Dioxide Enhanced Oil Recovery Stimulus, to Committee Number 2 for an appropriation. That's from number 9, Minerals, to Committee Number 2, Appropriations.
Any objection? No objection from the body? Done. Representatives, Chairman Washit.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would make a motion that we re-refer Senate File 101 from Labor and Health to Committee Number 1, Judiciary.
Any discussion? Any objection from the body? It's been re-referred to Committee Number 1, Judiciary. Representative Byron.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I make motion to re-refer Senate File 171 from from committee number 7 to committee number 6.
Any objection? Seeing none? Body, just so you know what's going on here, we're coming down to the last few days here, and we've got some committees that are getting short on work, and so we're trying to move some of these important Senate files around, and so we can hopefully get them heard and get them onto the general file. So that's what's happening, is we've got committees that have availability, but in the days left before they have to be out of committee, so we're just trying to get some things moved around so we can keep the process moving. Any other announcements? None? Okay. Bills on second reading. We are at that order of business on second reading. The first bill for our consideration is Senate File 7.
Senate File 7, sponsored by Judiciary, Protection Order Amendments, an act relating to stalking, sexual assault, and domestic violence protection orders.
Senate File 7 having been read 2 separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. Next Senate file for our consideration, Senate File 8.
Senate File 8, sponsored by Judiciary, Protection Orders effective during appeal or review, an act relating to protection orders.
Senate File 8 having been read 2 separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. Next Senate file for our consideration, 39.
Senate File 39, sponsored by Senator Olson, automatic transfer of automobile title upon death, an act relating to motor vehicles.
Senate File 39 having been read 2 separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. Next Senate file for our consideration, Senate File 62.
Senate File 62, sponsored by Senator Larson, restrooms in publicly funded schools, 2, an act relating to school districts.
We have amendments. First amendment for our consideration, Representative Provenza, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I respectfully withdraw this amendment. We're going to hear it in a different bill later.
Rather than as asked to be withdrawn, is there any objection from the body? Representative Lawley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move second reading amendment on Senate File 62 and ask for your favorable consideration. Body, you'll recall.
Here, just one second. I thought you were going to speak to the first one.
no,
I was just asking if there's any objection. Seeing no objection? Okay, amendment has been removed. Next amendment for our consideration will be second reading amendment number 2 to House Bill 60, or Senate File 62. Oh, it's Representative Lawley. Okay, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is the first time in a long time I've been ahead of myself there, so thank you. I move, Mr. Speaker, second reading amendment number 2 on Senate File 62 and ask for your favorable consideration. Body, what this is doing is realigning some definitions. You may recall that we've worked hard this session on our bills to align definitions and our bills that have to do with gender. We did what is a woman. We used a definition, was amended in with at the request of the sponsor and work we did together. And then the bill we have on our sports bill uses a certain definition. And so this is trying to bring that definition into this bill. And I'm going to go through it with you in a moment, but one of the reasons this is important is in another bill we passed, which is House Bill 60. It's my amendments to the sports eligibility bill. I will be deleting, if that passes, it deletes the definition of sex in there and uses the definitions of female and male. So that could be an issue if that bill passes over on the Senate side. So I just am realigning. So let me walk you through it. What happens first is we insert at page 2 after line 7, the definitions from female and male that we put in our what is a woman, and we put it in the eligibility in sports bill. And then we make some conforming amendments. You see there, those 2 that we were just renumbering. And then on page 2, line 21, we delete the reference to the current eligibility in sports bill, which is what was referred to for a definition of sex. And then you see on page 2, line 22, we delete the rest of the statute, and then we insert a person's biological sex, either male or female. So that's all just basically bringing in that definition into the bill. I think it makes the bill stronger. The bill could end up with a flaw if the eligibility and sports bill amendments we passed, House Bill 60, passes the Senate and it becomes law. This definition of sex will have been removed from the current law. So just try to create some conformity and hopefully save a potential problem for Senate File 62. Stand for questions.
Thank you, Representative. Any members for their first time? Representative Lean for your first time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On and in favor of the amendment for uniformity and consistency within our law, and this makes a legally defensible biological sex termination definition that we need to be able to give our judiciary branch. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members for their first time? Representative Heft for your first time, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also see this as a friendly amendment. I would support this amendment.
Thank you, Representative. Any others for their first time? On the amendment? Seeing none, back to the second time. Back to the bringer. Representative Lawley, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just call for the question. Thank you.
Question being called for. Members, you are voting on second reading amendment number 2 to Senate File 62. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no? The amendment has been adopted. Okay, I believe that's it. Senate File 62, having been read 2 separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. Next amendment, Senate File for our consideration, number 79.
Senate File 79, sponsored by Senator Crago. District Courts, change of venue, an act relating to civil procedure.
Senate File 79, having been read 2 separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. Next, Senate File 98.
Senate File 98, sponsored by Senator Olson. School Board Trustees, party affiliation, an act relating to ballots.
Senate File 98, having been read 2 separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. Next Senate File for our consideration, Senate File 110.
Senate File 110, sponsored by Senator Brennan. Inclusion of crossing guards for Governmental Claims Act, an act modifying the Wyoming Governmental Claims Act to include crossing guard volunteers and faculty.
Senate File 110, having been read 2 separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. Next, Senate File 119.
Senate File 119, sponsored by Senator Boner. Expedited professional licensure for military members, an act relating to professions and occupations.
Senate File 119, having been read 2 separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. Next Senate File for our consideration, Senate File 127.
Senate File 127, sponsored by Senator Boner. Administrative rules, legislative review, an act relating to administrative procedure.
Senate File 127, having been read 2 separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. Next Senate File for our consideration, 137.
Senate File 137, sponsored by Senator Dockstader. School finance cash reserves, an act relating to school finance.
Senate File 137, having been read 2 separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. Next Senate File for our consideration, Senate File 179.
Senate File 179, sponsored by Senator Barlow. Sage grouse compensatory mitigation amendments, an act relating to sage grouse implementation and mitigation credits.
Senate File 179, having been read 2 separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. Next Senate File for our consideration, Senate File 181.
Senate File 181, sponsored by Senator Crago. Eminent domain, energy collection systems 2, an act relating to eminent domain.
Senate File 181, having been read 2 separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. Next and last Senate File for our consideration, number 195.
Senate File 195, sponsored by Senator Beitman. Small Business Energy Bridge Loan Program, an act relating to emergency loan programs.
Senate File 195, having been read 2 separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. Okay. We are at that order of business of bills on third reading and final passage. Mr. Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move the third reading consent list consisting of the following 9 Senate files. Senate File 4, Senate File 43, Senate File 61,
Senate File 75, Senate File 82, Senate File 114, Senate File 130, Senate File 143, and Senate File 151.
Any members would like to remove any of those Senate files from the consent list? You can remove. Representative Straw, please.
Thank you, Speaker. I would like to remove Senate File 43.
43 has been removed. Any others? Senate File 43, we've removed it. Any others? Any others? None? Okay, having been read 3 separate times, the question, oh, you've got to read them in. Go ahead. Chief Clerk, read the bills on the consent list, please, sir.
Senate File 4, sponsored by Travel, State Park Peace Officers, definition and scope of authority, and act relating to criminal procedure being enacted by the legislature of the state of Wyoming. Senate File 61, sponsored by Senator Case, pollution control, property tax exemption, applicability, an act relating to environmental quality being enacted by the legislature of the state of Wyoming. Senate File 75, sponsored by Senator Case, coroner investigations, disposition of decedent's property, an act relating to county coroners being enacted by the legislature of the state of Wyoming. Senate File 82, sponsored by Water, omnibus water bill planning, an act relating to water development projects being enacted by the legislature of the state of Wyoming. Senate File 114, sponsored by Senator Landon, missing persons, reporting requirement, an act relating to criminal procedure being enacted by the legislature of the state of Wyoming. Senate File 130, sponsored by Senator Rothfuss, emergency assistance, immunity, mental health services, an act relating to civil procedure being enacted by the legislature of the state of Wyoming. Senate File 143, sponsored by Senator Nethercott, public monies, deposits and credit unions, an act relating to public funds being enacted by the legislature of the state of Wyoming. Senate File 151, sponsored by Senator Jones, monthly ad valorem tax distribution amendments, an act relating to taxation and revenue being enacted by the legislature of the state of Wyoming.
Having been read 3 separate times, the question is, shall these bills pass the House? Chief Clerk, please call the roll.
Allemand, Andrew, Angelos, Banks, Bear, Brady, Bratton, Brown, Gary, Brown, Landon, Byron, Campbell, Elisa, Campbell, Kevin, Chestick, Clouston, Connolly, Davis, Eklund, Erickson, Filer, Geringer, Guggenmoss, Haroldson, Harshman, Heiner, Heft, Jarvis, Johnson, Kelly, Knapp, Larson Lloyd, Larson JT, Lawley, Lean, Locke, Lucas, McCann, Nicholas, Ottman, Pendergraft, Posey, Provenza, Riggins, excused, Rodriguez Williams, Schmid, Sherwood, Singh, Smith, Storer, Strzok, Stivar, Tarver, Thayer, Washut, Wasserberger, Webb, Weber, Worf, Williams, Winter, Wiley, Yin. Mr. Speaker, are there any changes? Are there any changes? Closing vote. Vote closed. 60 aye, 2 excused. As for Senate File 4, are there any changes? Larson Lloyd, aye to no. Allemand, aye to no. Andrew, aye to no. Locke, aye to no. Lean, aye to no. Bratton, aye to no. Nicholas, aye to no. McCann, Aye to no. Brady, aye to no. Heiner, aye to no. Wasserberger, aye to no. Singh, aye to no. Bear, aye. Whoops. Bear, aye to no. Johnson, aye to no. Lucas, aye to no. Knapp, aye to no. Brown, Gary, aye to no. Connolly, aye to no. Guggenmoss, aye to no. Further changes, Nyman, aye to no. Further changes, further changes. Closing vote, vote closed. 40 aye, 20 no, 2 excused. As for Senate File 61, are there any changes? Brown, Gary, aye to no. Yin, aye to no. Further changes. Brady, aye to no. Further changes. Closing vote, vote closed. 57 aye, 3 no, 2 excused. As for Senate File 75, are there any changes? Are there any changes? Closing vote, vote closed. 60 aye, 2 excused. As for Senate File 82, are there any changes? Are there any changes? Closing vote, vote closed. 60 aye, 2 excused. As for Senate File 114, are there any changes? Are there any changes? Closing vote, vote closed. 60 aye, 2 excused. As for Senate File 130, are there any changes? Are there any changes? Closing vote, vote closed. 60 aye, 2 excused. As for Senate File 143, are there any changes? Nyman, aye to no. Smith, aye to no. Strzok, aye to no. Harshman, aye to no. Bratton, aye to no. Campbell Elisa, aye to no. Allemand, aye to no. Connolly, aye to no. Jarvis, aye to no. Washut, aye to no. Locke, aye to no. Thayer, aye to no. Banks, aye to no. Singh, aye to no. Williams, aye to no. Further changes. Locke, no to aye. Further changes. Further changes. Closing vote. Vote closed. 46 aye, 14 no, 2 excused. As for Senate File 151, are there any changes? Are there any changes? Closing vote. Vote closed. 60 aye, 2 excused.
Having received the affirmative vote of the majority of the members elected to the House, Senate File 4, 61, 75, 82, 114, 130, 143, and 151 have passed the House. Okay, moving on to bills on third reading and regular list. First bill for our consideration, Senate File 72.
Senate File 72, sponsored by Senator Brennan. Summer Vacation Preservation Act, an act relating to education, being enacted by the legislature of the state of Wyoming.
We have amendments. First amendment for our consideration is third reading amendment number 2 to Senate File number 72. Representative Harshman, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd move third reading amendment number 2 to Senate File 72. And members, this adds a paragraph B on page 5 and adds to the language on page 5 that says, no school district shall decrease any teacher salaries as a result of this act. It turns that into paragraph A, then adds a new paragraph B that the foundation program is defined and then accounts generated then to the resource block grant model. Foundation program is the amount that the block grant model generates. And it'll generate these resources based on a district operating its classes, and it's for the 175 and 185 day. And I think that's really the intent of the bill, the way Section 3 is written. So I'd stand for any questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, back to the amendment bringer. Are we good? Okay. Members, you are voting on third reading amendment number 2 to Senate File 72. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The amendment has been adopted. Division being called. All those in favor, please stand. Okay. You may be seated. All those opposed, please stand. Yeah. You may be seated. The amendment was not adopted, 26 to 31.
Mr. Chairman?
So, yep, Representative
Mr.
Harshman.
Chairman, I'd move for, is it 12-4, roll call vote on that amendment?
12-4. Only 2 seconds. Representative Provenza, Representative Campbell, you got one? Okay. Okay, members, you're going to be voting as a roll call this go around on third reading amendment number 2 to Senate File 72.
Allemande? No. Andrew? No. Angelos? No. Banks? No. Bear? No. Brady? No. Bratton? No. Brown Gary? No. Brown Landon? Aye. Byron? Aye. Campbell Elisa. Campbell Kevin. Chestick. Clauston. Connolly. Davis. Eklund. Erickson. Feiler. Geringer. Guggenmoss. Haroldson. Harshman. Heiner. Heft. Jarvis. Johnson. Kelly. Knapp. Larson Lloyd. Larson JT. Lawley. Lean. Locke. Lucas. McCann. Nicholas. Ottman. Repeat. Pendergraft. Posey. Provenza. Riggins excused. Rodriguez Williams. Schmid. Sherwood. Singh. Smith. Storr. I'm sorry, repeat. Strock. Stivar. Tarver. Thayer. Washut. Wasserberger. Webb. Weber. Wharf. Williams. Winter. Wiley. Yin. Mr. Speaker, are there any changes? Andrew, aye. To no. Further changes? Further changes? Closing vote. Vote closed. 28 aye, 32 no, 2 excused.
By your vote, you have chosen not to adopt third reading amendment number 2 to Senate File 72. Next amendment for our consideration, amendment number 3 to Senate File 72. Representative Harshman, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move third reading amendment number 3 to Senate File 72. And members, I guess if you would just, this is a way to basically add about 16 hours of instruction at no cost. So if you would just take your left hand and do this. So everybody do this right in front of you. Okay, and then if you would grab your little pinky and say to yourself, 25%, 50%, 75%, and 100%. Now, this is the way that the majority of our high school students today are attending school, and it's called a block schedule, 4 blocks. Okay, go back to 2017 when the ADM was 50%, and your House Education sponsored a bill on multiple points to save education funding. And one of them was to move this 50% up. And there was a difference between the two bodies, and the conference committee came back with 80%. And I was, had the conference committee in my office at that time. I said, this is wrong, it has to be 75. And the conference committee chairman at that time said, I don't think we can go back, the whole thing will blow up. And so it was unfortunate, but we were at that point in negotiations we had to do that. So school districts have responded. And so you take your senior in high school who doesn't need that last block of the day to graduate. So he takes that block off and goes to work or goes to seminary or does whatever, but you can see now we're at 75%. So what we have forced our school districts to do then is to adapt. And what they have done then is taken 8 to 10 minutes off of each one of these blocks and created a little homeroom here, 30 minutes long or so. And so you've taken 10 minutes off of each one of these blocks and created a homeroom. So then you put this homeroom in the middle of the day, and that senior goes A block, B block, homeroom, C block, and then heads off to work or seminary or wherever on D block. And then when you do those percentages, it gets them to 80%. Great. So what did that cost? Taking 10 minutes off of each block of math, history, English, welding. So you can't create more time. When you take 10 minutes a day off, what does that add up to? And if you do the math on it, it's just shy of 16 hours. Okay, so you talk to any teacher that's been at it for decades, and they'll say, I am not covering as much history as I used to. I am not covering as much math or as much welding as I used to. And so we're looking at shortening the school year by a couple of weeks. You can pick up 16 hours of instruction time and not cost the state a penny. It's not going to cost anymore. And I'm not saying, I got to be careful. I don't want to say there's no value in homerooms. But I would say it would be interesting if this moves to 75%. What happens to schedules of about 49% of the high schools in the state, but about 60–70% of the students? Because our big school districts are all run on block schedules. So that's really the idea, is to correct this. It's not going to cost a penny, but as we shorten the calendar year, we can pick up instruction time in every subject. So I would stand for any questions. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You know, it was really difficult for me, like, this little pig went to market, this little pig stayed home. I mean, you started through your little, and, you know, that was the first thought in my mind. And I didn't want to get you because using a property thing like that, but yeah, your hands were great. Okay. Representative Larson.
So, Mr. Chairman, we, and members of the House, we were at this 75% prior to 2017, and it worked really well for our districts that were on the block, and it didn't matter to those who were not. When we made that change, and I remember we tried to correct that actually a couple of times, because it forced the districts to go into this little time that nothing really, I can say it probably, but nothing really productive happens in that time during the day that we've accumulated that 10 minutes per day from doing there. But we've caused that. The legislature caused that, not the districts. The districts would like to be able, if you've got release time seminary, if you've got kids that are going to go to work at the end of that time. So this really cleans up a mistake that we put in there that we just have not been, that we not get put back in place. So really need to fix this, and hope you'll support it.
Any other representatives for their first time? First time? Second time? Seeing none, back to the bringer? Nope. Question being called. Vote. Members, you're voting on third reading amendment number 3 to Senate File 72. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The amendment has been adopted. Division being called. All those in favor, please stand. Okay, you may be seated. This is going to be very close, so please stand, and stand quietly. Stand still. Representative Andrew, hold still. Okay. You may be seated. The amendment has not been adopted. 28 to 32. So next amendment for our consideration, third reading amendment number 4 to Senate File 72. Representative Andrew, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move third reading amendment number 4 to House Bill Senate File 72 and ask for your favorable consideration. Members, this amendment deletes the second reading amendment that intended to turn this from a shall bill to a may bill. But I think that when I finally had time to read this through, that it didn't do exactly what the bringer thought. And in talking to her, I believe that she agrees with that. So that happens to all of us. But I think that if you want to have the intent of what that amendment did, I think you would probably vote for the next amendment instead. Thank you.
Any other members for their first time? First time? Representative Eklund, first time, sir.
Mr. Speaker, so let me get back to the four-day school schedule. And I'm still unclear, even though they're able to get, well, I guess, they're able to get an allowance for that four-day schedule. I'm unclear as to whether this puts on a layer of regulation on those districts. And that's part of why I've opposed the bill. And I still question the whole thing. A may and a shall are two different words. They still allow legislation through, the may will. And I think I would speak against this amendment and leave the amendment that we adopted before in place and allow the school districts to operate without a lot of heavy regulation.
Any other members for their first time? Representative Brown, Landon, first time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On and opposed to this only for the simple reason that I don't typically like amendments that come in to delete something to tell us you should just do this and then we can have the discussion on another amendment here in a few seconds. What we typically like to do with those types of amendments is, hey, look, the amendment that we passed was not good, so here's an amendment that makes us a little bit better and tries to fix the intent on what we were trying to do. And so my concern is, without actually having a chance to really read into the next amendment yet and what we're looking at doing here, I'm a little skeptical on taking something away and popping up there and just saying, well, yeah, let's go to the next amendment without really having an understanding of what the next amendment's going to do. This body resoundingly said, let's do the may versus the shall, with the expectation that we don't like being heavy-handed in this body. And that's exactly what this bill is doing. So I would say, let's see what the next amendment is. And if I need to go draft another amendment after this to say, let's get rid of that last amendment, then we can do that.
Any other members for their first time? Seeing no members, second time. Representative Eklund and Brown. None? Okay. Bringer, Representative Andrew, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So what this amendment ends up doing is on page 3, line 14, it says each school district shall operate its schools and its classes for a minimum of 165 days. We turn that to a may with this amendment, which means that anything between 0 and 365 is just fine. The second thing it does is it makes it a may that a board should have a public meeting discussing the schedule instead of a shall. And 3, it makes it a may that they should annually evaluate whether or not the schedule that they have decided to have is a good idea or not. So I just don't think it does what we're trying to have it do. Thank you.
Members, you're voting on third reading amendment number 4 to Senate File 72. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. No. The amendment has not been adopted. Division being called. Those in favor, please stand. Okay, you may be seated. All those opposed, please stand. This is going to be close, so please stand still. You may be seated. The amendment has been adopted 30 to 29. Next amendment for our consideration, third reading amendment number 5 to Senate File 72. Representative Yin, please, sir.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. I move third reading amendment number 5 to Senate File number 72 and ask for your favorable consideration. So members, even if we had kept that second reading amendment, this amendment would still be necessary because the text of the bill still requires approval by the State Board of Education for any schedule that goes outside of that Labor Day and Memorial. I know there are a couple of members that weren't here for that second reading debate, but I won't rehash it too much. Essentially, all our school districts are pretty different, and some of them have a need for going outside of that range and shouldn't be tasked with the bureaucracy of going to the State Board of Education. This removes that requirement for that approval by the State Board for a local school district schedule. And with that, it doesn't touch the 165-day portion. It's only talking about that boundary portion between Labor Day and Memorial. And with that, I'll ask for your favorable consideration. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Any other members for their first time? Representative Thayer, first time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On and for this amendment, I think this is a happy working together, again, keeping it local control. We have such concerns and issues with hiring teachers as it is, that putting them in a box and not have local control for the different areas and the different communities. I think this is a great meet in the middle.
Thank you, Representative. Any other members for their first time? First time? Seeing none. Second time, potentially. Back to the bringer. Representative Yin. Members, you're voting on third reading amendment number 5 to Senate File 72. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. No. Man, that's limp. Division, please stand so we know for sure here. I would say it's very even. Okay. You may be seated. All those opposed, please stand. Representative Gallagher, quit moving around. No swaying. It's a 1, okay. You may be seated. The amendment has not been adopted, 26 to 32. So next amendment for our consideration will be amendment number 5, or actually amendment number 1, truth be told. Representative Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Folks, you know, if the the intent of this legislation.
You'll need to move the amendment.
Oh,
Please.
good call, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would like to move third reading amendment number 1 to Senate file number 72 and ask for I will remove it when,
At the appropriate time.
okay, thanks.
Sounds good. Proceed, Representative.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Body, if the intent of this legislation is to tell our locally elected school boards how to do their scheduling for their year, then I would vote in favor of this bill. But let me give you a little background here. There's 193 towns in Wyoming. The top 23 population-wise are 3,500 to 65,000. The top 10 are 10,000 to 65,000 population. There's 131 towns in our state that are 1,000 population or less. So then you go down there and we've got 49 school districts, 348 schools. The 4A school districts, and this is 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. There's 15 of them in our state, from 700 to 2,000 student enrollment. On the 3A, there's 16 of them in our state, and that varies too, from as low as 200 to 650. Then we get down here to where there's 36 schools, high schools in our states with students from 26 to 200 students. That's in four divisions of them schools. So, it was referred to us last time we discussed this, that this would not affect rural Wyoming. Well, I'll tell you, I represent 47, House District 47. There's 3 different school districts involved in that giant block. There's not one red and green light in any of my communities. So how can this bill not affect rural Wyoming? I'd argue that Wyoming is rural. This is who we are. This is what we talk about, Wyoming values and things like that. And so for this body to say that we aren't affecting our local elected rural school districts and boards, I just don't believe that it's the intent of the 68th legislature for us to go down this road and affect our locally elected school boards. So in my opinion, that's where it's at, and I would vote no on this bill because it has ramifications throughout the state of Wyoming that we don't even realize.
Thank you, Representative. Any members for the first time? Representative Andrew, first time.
Mr. Speaker, on and against the amendment, on and for the bill. What this bill does is set the standard to say that this is what we, as a state, would generally like to have happen in our uniform system of public schools. I think that's okay. That's why we set the number of days. That's why we set all kinds of things. But the bill still provides the flexibility for school districts to go through a process to have an alternative schedule if that's what they would like. And the precedent is those schedules are already granted pretty much across the board, including if you have a 4-day schedule in your school district. That's because they got an exemption for it, and those exemptions remain. So I think it's okay to set a standard and allow these school districts to deviate from it. I think that allows us sufficient amount of local control, but also allows us to have uniformity in our public system. Thank you.
Any other members? Representative Thayer for your first time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On and for this amendment, I guess I have a question that I asked last week and still haven't gotten the answer. We have granted exemptions. We have a 4-day week at different schools. But now we're opening up that there are going to be more requests to the state school board. Do they have the capacity and time to grant all those exemptions and changes? Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Erickson, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would rise to ask a couple of questions and again, opposed to this bill for the amendment. But now we have to ask, why are we looking to go and put more restrictions on that after this debate, which has been great debate? We need to let the public in these districts work with school boards to protect the summer that they want, each individually in their area. Their area has to be taken into account because, as prior speakers have talked about, we are very unique across the state. And we cannot fit this all into one neat package. Let the local boards work with the people that are concerned about this. This bill creates mandates and more state control. And again, I want you to kind of take a reflection back at what we've kind of done, our general attitude towards education in this particular session is to remove sideboards, remove requirements, remove the state being involved in lots of things that we've done. And then we're coming back at the end of this session and we're saying that we want to now go in and place them back on, maybe because of the careful look that we've taken over the public education. You know, I have to kind of wonder if it's not something that's driven by the attack on public education. So please keep that in mind and think about that as you give it consideration. If we want to remove things and remove sideboards and controls, as we've done in multiple bills, we want to keep that the same way with this particular one and defeat the bill.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Eklund, for your first time.
Mr. Speaker, so I think I'm in favor of the amendment opposed to the bill. And I think I'll address the capacity issue that one of the legislators asked about. And I think I can answer that. They have the capacity. If some of you have reviewed your school districts, you'll know what you've got in administration. There are a bunch of people that make sure that they cut through all the red tape. We're adding a level. I think my district will cut through it fine, but they'll need enough administrators to do this. And we continue to add things and they continue to add administrators. They cut back on teachers to get these administrators in there to get this work done that we demand of them. This is regulation that I'm unsure why we need. It sounds like we can bypass the regulation, but we've got to have somebody in there who applies for variances from that. My district will have to, one way or another. It's a 4-day district, but it'll probably have one more layer if we add this to it. So I'm opposed to the bill.
Representative Wiley, for your first time, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Morning, Representative.
Body, this is one more thing. I do believe we're encroaching on home rule here. You know, we talk about it a lot to where, you know, the folks at home directly get a, you know, put these boards up. They get a vote for these boards. It's on the ballot. I've said time and time again when I go speak for different problems and stuff that we have at home, you know, I believe in those boards. I believe in that local control. And so do my folks at home, so do all of your folks, because they're voting for those people that they're putting to those boards. And I believe that if we do this, we're just putting one more layer of bureaucracy on top of what we already have on and for the amendment.
Representative Filer, your first time.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker. On and for this amendment and against the bill. And I think one thing that we do when we write legislation is we don't think about all the unintended consequences, right? If this bill's to pass, I lose 3 weeks with my son every year. And it's very important to know that, you know, there's a lot of folks that are in my same predicament. That it's important that sometimes our child has to stay with us just a little bit longer, as much as we possibly can. We know how important that is to have our children with us. But because of the life situations that I live in, we're a blended family. With this bill, we're going to lose 3 weeks a year. If we times that by the next 10 years, that's a lot of time that I don't get to be with him, get him ready for football practice, get him ready for baseball, all that kind of stuff I lose. He doesn't even get a chance to play. So, you know, and I know this is probably just my own personal issue, but at the end of the day, when your local school boards decide these rules or these days, a lot of parental agreements out there are set up by those when we go through parental agreements through divorce and custody cases and all that kind of stuff. So I understand the whole reason to have, you know, Memorial Day, Labor Day, because everybody complains like, why the kids even go back when they get a 3-day vacation right away, you know, all those things. But it does. It cuts that much time out of my year, 3 weeks. And, but I too understand the bill, but I just, on for the amendment and probably against the bill.
Any other representatives for their first time? Representative Harshman, your first time.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker. Against the bill, for the amendment. Body, and I think amendment number 2 that we took a roll call vote on. Just think about what we're voting for here now. So we're going to go through recalibration, and it's going to go through a cost base to find the basket of goods. And then school foundation program grants will be awarded to each school district based on that basket of goods, and it's all cost-based. So this is a 6% cut. That's what it is. Don't kid yourself. That little language in there about teacher salary means nothing. It's not even about that. It's this is going to be a 6% cut in the block grant. So if you want to cut education funding, vote aye for this. And you'll be on the record, and that'll be good, and we want to know where everybody stands on this. That is exactly what this is about. And I would say, I think we have, again, pointed out in second reading, we have one parent here who has actually got kids in public school, who actually went to public school here. And we haven't been doing this, Labor Day to Memorial Day schedule in over 30 years. It's been decades. So if you're remembering back at some point in time, 15 years ago, maybe you were in high school, maybe it was another state, I don't know, but we haven't been doing it in this state. And so I just think why we want to dismantle the best school system in America and maybe in the world. Why do you want to take 6% of the instruction time away? I don't know. And I think back, part of this deal, when we kind of lose sight of history, it gets really, really kind of scary. I mean, go back to, the 54th life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And we pledge our lives, our fortunes, our sacred honor. Those are radical ideas. Freedom of religion, speech, education, radical ideas. And somehow we've kind of forgot that. We're bringing bills on freedom of speech and the right to vote, and now on our public education system that this country so radically set up. And then here we are leading the nation in ACT scores, some of the best in the world in NAEP scores. And we want to start dismantling that. God, we've kind of forgot our history and what's made this country great. And so be careful, because chip by chip by chip of this, and we want to, I know, Mr. Speaker, it's parental rights and it's all those things. And that's, hey, I raised 4 kids. I was the boss of my kids till they turned 18. It's not about any of that. It's about providing the best opportunities for our kids and our grandkids so they can enjoy the pursuit of happiness, which is not about some little kind of endeavor that we get to go on vacation. It's about being the best we can become. That's what our founders meant about the pursuit of happiness. As I mentioned on second reading, that was George Washington's one kind of regret. He never had a formal education. And boy, let's be careful, because this is a 6% cut in education time and funding to our precious public school system, which, just like your right to speech and right to religion and right to assembly, it is a fundamental right. It's a fundamental right in our great state. So you look at that equality state logo. So on and against, please vote no on this bill and the rest of the bills that are trying to dismantle public education in this state. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think I might dial things back to a little bit more granular and practical level. When this idea was first brought to me, it was because there's a concern about districts moving to year-round school, which is a horrific idea for families and businesses. There's a concern about 4-day school weeks, which runs against the grain of the entire business community of the United States that works Monday through Friday, which is also a bad idea. And I love the idea of a longer summer vacation. That being said, all these warnings about what this bill will do, I don't think any of that comes to fruition, because ultimately, what does this bill do? And it's not much other than add an extra bureaucratic step for the districts to go ahead and do what they want anyways. So in the end, I failed to now see the point of what we're doing here, so for the amendment against the bill.
Representative Haroldson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So guys, if we look at this, what we're doing here really is we're sliding from 175 to 165 and putting some language in here on these dates. Every single school district right now, if you have a concern and want to bring forward this idea to your school board, you can do that. This is already there. This is not a place for us to step into and muddy it up. I mean, at the end of the day, if you really feel like you want to go from Memorial Day to Labor Day, or backwards, Labor Day to Memorial Day as your school year, then get the teachers behind it, go to your school board, bring forth that conversation and do that. But at the end of the day, this is not something that, I mean, I think this is, I mean, when they brought this bill for me to co-sponsor, I said, you guys, this is local control issue here. If you got a concern, go bring that to your school board and get that taken care of. You know what, if there's a community that really feels like a 4-day work week might be, or school week might be the way to go, then bring it to your school board and make that reality. But I think at the end of the day, if we start doing this, I mean, at the end, if we're not careful, this is kind of a slippery slope when we start doing this. So on and for the amendment against the bill.
Representative Larson.
Floyd. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I, at the risk of being repetitious, would just again remind us as a body that over this session, we've talked a lot about education and providing people who want to function outside the public school system, which is fine, the flexibility to on days, curriculum, things that they would like to do, but then now we're going to come back to the public system and put more restrictions on them, less seat time, less teacher to student face time. But most importantly, the taking away, and it's just really, really important that we have this local control to determine their school year. I've not understood yet to the good speaker from up in the Valley of the Stars that said, why? And I agree with that and would hope that we would just let our school boards have that, leave the authority with them that we've placed in them, that the parents of the children going to the public schools have invested in them through their votes to function the schools outside of our heavy thumb. And so for the amendment against the bill.
Excuse me, Representative Jarvis, please.
Thank you, Speaker. So part of my doctoral opportunity was my first year. I got to be an intern for the top 24 superintendents in the state and work with a Ivy League university and a bunch of national leaders in the area of educational leadership and looking at collective capacity and systemic change in education on how do you truly impact educational change. And part of that was this thing called the instructional core. And so this is where a lot of school districts and a lot of schools and a lot of states and a lot of policies where they go wrong and why so many things fail is because they don't understand the instructional core. And there's an overwhelming amount of research that exists in this area. And the instructional core looks at three things. It looks at teacher knowledge, student engagement, and teacher tools. So do the teachers have the resources that they need to do the work? Do they have the knowledge to do the work? And is it something that is being presented in a way that the students are engaging with and interacting with? If you can accomplish those three things in what you do, it's statistically impossible for students to not increase learning. What goes wrong so many times in what we do in educational reform is we either don't impact any of those things or we only impact one. The research, what we did as a state when we did the letters training for all of our teachers, we did a whole bunch of a 2-year actual process in teaching teachers how to teach reading. We built the knowledge, but what we forgot was to give them the tools on how to take that knowledge and apply it to their actual classrooms, or how do they engage the students. So we missed this key link in there. And we ended up with a whole lot of frustrated teachers because now they came back and said, great, you just showed me that I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing and that I needed all of these things, but you didn't hand me the actual resources to do the work. So we had a big miss there. And now we're working on that through the different initiatives coming down the pike on how do we help and how do we support that. Why does that matter with this specific bill? Well, we're hitting two things, people. Teacher knowledge, we're decreasing the time for which we're asking teachers to do professional development. And student engagement, we're decreasing the time for which we put students in front of teachers. That is a statistical correlation to decreasing student performance. And this bill manages to do that. So I'm going to tell you, if you don't value public education, you'll vote for this. Because it actually hits two things, two of those three of the instructional core. from our schools. And I've heard a lot about, not to mention the local control and everything else, but if this body is truly serious about educational reform, you have the people in this state, you have the parents who are very serious about supporting education, and you have the resources. So I encourage you, build your knowledge about education, make sure you have the right tools and resources, and make sure that you're engaging everybody. And guess what? It's going to work, and what you're doing is going to work. But if we continue down the path that we're doing and we don't pay attention to those three things, the outcome for which you're headed towards is not going to work. Thank you.
Representative Connolly, for your first time.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker.
Good morning, Representative Connolly. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Good to see you here today. Proceed.
Thank you. All right. I could not speak like the previous speaker did, but I can simply say that I'm in favor of this amendment, and I cannot, for the life of me, understand coming down here thinking we have good public education, we have a lot of good things to offer in this state. What is the reason to, I feel like, attack our local school boards and not support them? They're elected, may not like the way they're elected, but they're elected to represent the local community. And in my district, I think they do a really good job. And I don't understand why in this body, this session, that we're kind of after them. So I would be in favor of this amendment.
Representative Lean, for your first time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In the great county that I represent, I just want to say that statistically, we have started school after Labor Day very recently. As a matter of fact, this year is the first year that we've gone back after Labor Day for some time. And it seems to be working well for our students. I've been well educated this session on just how great our students are doing. And while I choose not to participate in the public school section of my life, I do understand that this has given the students an opportunity to have a school year, to have a summer, and to have the opportunity to attend things like fair and family vacation. You only get one childhood, so please vote your conscience when you do.
Representative Filer, for your first time. Oh, okay. Yep, I do have you. Representative Posey, first time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think the discussion I've been hearing is really tilted towards local control. And I really hate to mess with that. As the representative before me, a couple before me mentioned, we got a pretty good system, at least in my neck of the woods in central Wyoming, and the school boards, I feel, do really well. And I applaud the efforts of the bringer of the amendment to bring light to this. So I'm opposed to, or approve the amendment, oppose the bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Posey. Any other members for their first time? No members for their first time? Second time? Any members for their second time speaking to the bill? Representative Filer, please.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker, and I'll make this short. And I'm glad to hear those comments from somebody in a school district here in Wyoming that we're going to school after Labor Day works, but I'm pretty sure it was their local school board that probably decided that, if that's actually true. I'd be perfectly fine with this bill if we had the May in there. Allow our school boards to do what's best for their community. But we don't. It's saying from Memorial Day, Labor Day, you're not going to school. But, and at the end of the, after my last comments about, we don't see all the unintended consequences, I did text my attorney, and I was just informed that I probably, if I want to change those dates to keep them the same that I have now with my wife and my son, I would pretty much need to just start my retainer at $5,000 a day. So this is just one of those things that a lot of parental agreements go on what your school board says on your dates. And if those change, you have to go back to court in order to change those dates. So these are unintended consequences. Can we just please leave this up to our local school boards to decide what's best for their community? I believe there's one in my county now where they got together and decided to do a four-day school week in that area, right? We allowed that to happen because we elect those school board members to make what's best decisions for that community and that school district. So I just don't know why we're, I remember when we got to this body, a lot of people said, local control is good, keep it close to the people, let's be conservative, less regulation. And here we are putting on more regulation. Here we are doing a total opposite of what I was told that this body was really strong for. On and against, or on and for the amendment, on and against the bill.
Representative Wiley, first time, or second time, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll try to be short. Body, again, I'll just ask you to have a little bit of faith and confidence in those local boards at home. All of our neighbors, that help decide this every year, and they put those names on the ballot. I just implore you to stand with those folks right now and on for the amendment and against the bill.
Any other members for the second time? Second time. Representative Harshman, are you back there for a second go-round? Any others? Second time? Up to the speakers, back to the bringer. Representative Davis, second time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This has been really interesting debate here. But every day we're asked here in this body, the 68th, to resist federal overreach into our state of Wyoming. And I hope every day we respond with that. And right now I'm asking that we resist the overreach of our state to our local school boards. And I think we know what's best at our local levels. Let's leave that in their carport or however you want. Just let them make that decision, what's best for our schools. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I will remove my amendment.
Thank you, Representative Davis.
Withdraw my amendment.
People withdraw his amendment. Is there any objection? Seeing none, the amendment has been withdrawn. Body, you are voting on third. See, it's been withdrawn. So now, we'll go to this part. Senate File number 72, having been read 3 separate times, the question is, shall the bill pass? Chief Clerk, please call the roll.
Allemande? No. Andrew? Angelos? Banks? No. Bear? No. Brady? No. Bratton? No. Brown, Gary? Brown, Landon? No. Byron? No. Campbell, Elisa? No. Campbell, Kevin? No. Chestick? No. Clouston? No. Connolly? No. Davis? No. Eklund? No. Erickson? No. Filer? No. Geringer? No. Guggenmoss? No. Haroldson? No. Harshman? No. Heiner? No. Heft? No. Jarvis? No. Johnson? No. Kelly? No. Knapp? No. Larson Lloyd? No. Larson JT? No. Lawley? No. Lean? No. Locke? No. Lucas? No. McCann? McCann? Nicholas? Ottman? No. Pendergraft? No. Posey? No. Provenza? No. Riggins, excused. Rodriguez Williams? Schmid? No. Sherwood? No. Singh? No. Smith? No. Storer? No. Strock? Stivar? Aye. Tarver? No. Thayer? No. Washut? No. Wasserberger? No. Webb? No. Weber? No. Worf? No. Williams? No. Winter? No. Wiley? No. Yin? Mr. Speaker, are there any changes? Are there any changes? Schmid? no to aye. Further changes? Further changes? Closing vote? Vote closed. 5 aye, 52 no, 5 excused.
Senate File 72, having failed to receive the affirmative vote of the majority of the members elected to the House, Senate File 72 has failed to pass the House.
Mr. Speaker,
Representative Haraldson,
privilege of the floor, Mr. Speaker.
please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Up in our north gallery, we have a friend of mine as well as our principal of our high school there in Wheatland, Josh Sandlin. Josh, thank you for coming down and spending the day with us at the legislature.
Thank you, Mr. Sandlin. Welcome to the House. Thank you for coming down today, sir. Representative Majority Floor Leader Heiner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the House stand in recess until 2 p.m.
Committee announcements. Any committee announcements? Representative Knapp, please. Chairman Knapp.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. Your number 7 corporations will meet upon noon recess to hear bills SF 59, SF 95, SF 55 engrossed, and SF 107 engrossed.
Thank you, Representative. Any others? Representative Stivar, Vice Chair Stivar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Joint Conference Committee for message number 289 will be when is it? Oh, yeah, it'll be tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock.
Okay, we'll re-announce that one tonight. There's still some discrepancies. Chairman Bear. Room 110.
That's on House Bill 11. That will be room West 110.
Thank you, Vice Chair Stivar. Chairman Bear.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your committee number 2, appropriations, will meet in 45 minutes in room 301 and online to discuss Senate File 70, Investment Modernization State Non-Permanent Funds, and Senate File 169, Engrossed, Strategic Investments and Projects Accounts Repeal, as well as referrals at that time. Tomorrow morning, we will meet at 8 a.m. to discuss Senate File 196, Engrossed, Second Amendment Protection Act amendments and re-referrals as assigned.
Any other? Representative Locke, if you can still hear me, we have an announcement that you need to make as well, I understand. So that was the Joint Conference Committee there then? Okay, all right, very good then. That'll work then, Chief Clerk. Any other announcements? Seeing none, no one rushing to the microphones, we stand in recess until 2 p.m.